Gas prices are through the nose. California's on fire. Kids are wearing masks in school. And Afghanistan is a tragedy. If you voted for the current administration and you don't have a teensy-weensy bit of buyer's remorse, by now you may be helplessly and hopelessly indoctrinated. Oh, man. All right, so Joel.
Cliff.
Afghanistan. We have to, everybody's talking about it. We have to talk about what's happened over there.
I saw somebody post something on Facebook early in the week, and I was like, okay, whatever, Afghanistan. Then I saw another person post something, and then another, and then another, and then somebody came up to me in person. Like, dude, you hear about Afghanistan? And wow.
Yeah, dude. So,
what? Maybe we recap.
Well, recap. First off, we're gonna talk about what happened. So, we've been in Afghanistan for 20 years, occupying Afghanistan since 9/11.
Yep.
And we've been trying to establish government. We've been trying to fight for democracy. Let's say. Sharia law is something that the Taliban, who previously occupied Afghanistan, they promote and support. Sharia law has a lot different view of civil liberties.
It's actual racism and sexism, not delusional liberal racism and sexism.
Sharia law is the thing. The difference between Islam and Christianity is that Christianity is a religion that you can honestly, effectively do outside of politics, because Christianity believes in a separation of church and state,
and violence. And
Jesus said, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar, give to God what is God's." So you can be a Christian and not necessarily have that part and parcel, in with your politics and how you govern your people. The way Sharia law works in the Islam religion is that the religion is not apart from government. Like, the religion is supposed to be how you govern your people. And that's what the Taliban subscribes to. I'm going to say this right out front. We're not calling the Taliban a terrorist organization. We're not calling all Muslims terrorists. There are millions of peaceful Muslims and supporters and advocates for Islam. I just advocate that, having read the entire Quran, the Islamic religion as a whole is not a religion of peace. It would be very, very easy, based on some of the scriptures that are in there, for any radical cell like ISIS, like Al-Qaeda, for any of these radical cells to interpret what is in there as free reign to commit acts of terror on non-believers, people like Christians, Jews, atheists. It would be very plausible to commit those acts of terror, which is why a lot of these terrorist groups do profess the Muslim faith. So we've been in Afghanistan 20 years.
Mm-hmm. And then Joe Biden just pulls out immediately.
So we've been, and what's been happening is we've been pulling out of Afghanistan for a while. Trump actually started it. So, interestingly enough, Trump recognized that we have been, say what you want about him, whatever. He is a businessman. He's not a polished politician. He's a businessman, and the majority of his businesses have succeeded. He realized that we were spending upwards of $1 billion a year of our defense budget in Afghanistan. So that's not good for 20 years now. Trying to help them establish a new government, a new situation. So Trump got a deal. He got a deal with the Taliban. He actually had conversations with the leaders of the Taliban, got a deal for us to leave, and it was a conditions-based deal. If you don't do this, 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 and this, we will leave. Everything will be fine. If you break any of those conditions, look out. We're coming for you. So that's what happened. And Trump pulled out down to 2,500 soldiers. And to my knowledge, to what I understand, in the last year and a half of our occupation there, for what Trump was saying, in the past year and a half, there's been 0 casualties from us. 0 American casualties.
I think there was 1 or 2 I heard on the Ben Shapiro thing. It's
maybe
1.
Yeah, it's very okay.
From 2020 to now.
Very small.
Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure.
Well, and Trump says, and it's whether he need to believe him or not. Trump said it's because of his conversation he had with these Taliban leaders. He had a very very abrupt conversation with him, saying if we pull out of there, then there's not going to be any American casualties. You're going to have to lay off, et cetera, et cetera. So Biden inherits this deal, and Biden begins to execute the exit strategy of our troops. And by strategy, it's a complete and utter failure. It is one of the biggest failures in the history, in my opinion, of America.
The one image to me sells it the most. There's a plane taking off, and there are thousands of Muslims trying to get on. People that hold on to the side of this giant aircraft carrier, goes up in the air. People drop to their deaths.
Yeah.
Joe Biden then goes on the news, and they talk about the guys interviewing him, and he's like, "Could you have done this right?" And Joe Biden is like, basically to a T, like how Trump would be with his demeanor, like basically a jerk. And he's like, "No, this is like the best plan we've had." And nothing. Silence from the Facebook left.
So here's the things people need to know about what really happened. In January of 21, this year, Taliban occupation of Afghanistan was around 20%. It stayed that way up until May. All the way through May, it stayed at around 20%. May, we started pulling troops out. It got up to about 50 to 60%, which is breaching of contract, the conditions-based contract of our exit, our removal.
Yep.
That shows you that they're not afraid of the current administration. As soon as the exchange of power happened, they knew that the current administration wasn't going to care whether they met those conditions or not. Most of the conditions that the Taliban was supposed to uphold have not been upheld, and yet still we kept getting our troops out of there. So the idea was by the end of this month, by the end of August, we're going to get everybody out of there. Within a week, Biden gets the troops and just gets all the rest of the 2,500 troops, gets them out of there, leaves all of the equipment, leaves millions of dollars of American equipment, weapons,
that
missiles,
now the Taliban
helicopters.
has.
Leaves it. Right. Now the Taliban has that.
Yep.
We've essentially surrendered an entire nation over to the Taliban. I'm not saying the Taliban is a terrorist organization, but for a fact, the Taliban were the ones that harbored and aided and abetted Al-Qaeda and ISIS groups. Certain cells of ISIS. These are known terrorist groups. The Taliban supported and hid them when they had control of Afghanistan before. This is fact. That happened. And Joe Biden himself has said, "I don't trust the Taliban. I do not trust the Taliban." He doesn't trust the Taliban, but now they're in power. And I've heard this stuff. They say that there was bribes. They say that the reason it fell apart as soon as they pulled out is because the heads of all these magistrates and all these cities and stuff were taking bribes from the Taliban, that as soon as the American soldiers were out, that you could just let us come in, no problem. That may be true, but let me tell you what else was true. So America, we set up their military, the 300,000 strong military of Afghanistan. We set them up to emulate our military. And how does American military work? We have ground troops that are supported by air, and they communicate to that air support, and they use that air support to locate targets, to locate enemies, to all of this. It's a coordinated effort between the ground troops and the air support. Joe Biden removed all American air support from the Afghanistan military.
It's something like with the Afghanistan military, compare it to parents have 4 16-year-old kids at home, and the parents just pull out.
Yeah.
And are like, "Good luck." Of course it's going to fall apart.
They took away the air support, so there's no communication. They stopped private contracting. Up until this point, America, we had depended on private contractors for maintenance and creation of our air support. So even if the Afghanistan nannies, even if they wanted to, the government at the time, even if they wanted to set up their own air support and set up their own like Air Force, let's say, all the private contractors were no longer allowed to do business with. They had no private contracting, so they couldn't do it. It was like clipping every bit of the support that they could possibly do to function. On top of that, Joe Biden says, "We're not going to fight a war. We had no idea of knowing that they would collapse in 11 days, and we're not going to fight a war for them that they won't fight themselves." We've lost around 2,200 soldiers. According, like the data shows, supposedly, we've lost around 2,200 soldiers in 20 years. That many lives. The Afghan military has lost that many lives every single year. They've lost over 20 times that in the past 20 years. Don't tell me they're not willing to fight the war. They were willing to fight it. They just needed the support. But instead, what we found is what we were pushing for the past 20 years was not the foundations of a country.
Why can't we stay there?
Well, they don't want it. You don't know what we were selling them. The Afghan people didn't want what we were selling them.
I think the people in charge didn't want what we were selling them.
Dude, so
look at those pictures, man.
One of the things they spent millions of dollars on was gender studies degrees in a Kabul college.
Yeah. And
then one of their policies was to ensure that 10%, no matter the qualifications, and listen, I'm not sexist, but this is regardless of qualifications, they had to have 10% of their military be female. Period.
To a degree, I can understand why. Because
I understand what you're fighting. You're fighting a lot of sexism and in-ground patriarchy that was ingrained.
Actual sexism.
Yes, you're fighting that. I understand that.
Sexism.
But just like, think about it. It's practical. Let history be your teacher, all right? We had the civil rights movement, which was great. We needed it. And it got the vote, the women's rights and feminism, when the feminist movement was really happening in 60s, 70s, and all that. Dude, that was great. That was great. We needed those civil rights. We needed that equality, that shove in the right direction. How long have we been a country since then? Since before then. We had been a country for what, 150 years? Or whatever it is. You start the bedrock before you even got the foundations of a country. You're like, okay, we need like affirmative action and gender studies and gender equality and trans studies and education on this. It's like you are selling them something they do not want. They want to know how to have the right economy, a lasting defense military system. They want to know how to govern, not who gets to govern based on their sex. That doesn't make any sense.
I think you could have, I don't know, in an example that extreme, I think you could have all of that. But I guess my question is, we've got a lot of money, so why, like, if. And this is, you're going to find my big issue.
Right.
Is I don't see this giant outcry from my friends on Facebook and from all the people of what's going on in Afghanistan and how do we fix this.
Dude, so yeah.
Because CNN and Facebook and all the media, they haven't told my friends what to think yet. And
dude, the CNN anchor, we're going to show the clips. We'll show the clip now of the CNN anchor who's over there. Behind her, they're chanting "Death to America." The Taliban soldiers are chanting "Death to America." Mm-hmm. And she says, "But they seem friendly. It's so bizarre." Come on, bro. Yeah, they're not friendly at that point. So they're chanting "Death to America." The only people that would think that is friendly is a generation of people who have been bought and sold the lie that America is an evil, self-serving empire.
Cliff, people are basically good. All people are good, basically. That's what separates the left and the right from me.
Dude, that's what's happening right now. When you have a generation of kids that you've taught is okay to burn the flag, it's okay to sit during the national anthem, it's okay to hate your own country. When you've taught them that America is this evil, capitalist, self-serving country, when you've taught them that, that's when they hear people chanting "Death to America" and they're like, they seem friendly.
Yeah. Trump gets elected and you hear all these voices that sound similar in this regard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave the country if Donald Trump gets elected. And then you see this Afghanistan picture. Just so, because this is people on the left. This is not anyone on the right when Donald Trump got elected. People on the left were saying they're going to leave if Donald Trump gets elected. I heard podcasts I was listening to, podcasts that were more on the left.
People
that I was
were
a fan
threatening to kill themselves if Trump got elected.
Scared.
It was awful.
Oh my gosh. And then you see the Afghanistan picture, just so everybody on the left understands, that's actual oppression. It's actual racism. It's actual sexism.
It is actually, okay, so these are people that are flooding that plane. They're trying to get on that plane. They're latching onto it. And then these Afghan people are up about 3,000 feet in the air. They finally can't hold on anymore. The air is too thin and they let go. And you see their bodies falling to their death. These are people that are willing to risk certain death. Certain death than be in their country that they're in, because they know that the regime that's coming in is evil. They know the kind of evil they're for. These aren't people that are like these, what we've talked about, the snowflake type scenario where they just sit and cry for hours, have their safe spaces, and say, Trump got elected, my life is over, this is the worst thing on earth. Let me tell you something. Those people would not be risking. Do you think those people would be falling to their death, latching onto that, clamoring over each other to get into this plane to go to an evil, self-serving empire? No. They're not going to an evil, self-serving capitalist empire. They're going to America because they know that we still believe in freedom, the ability to pursue wealth, to pursue your own ideas. We believe in the free exchange of ideas. And we're not going to, and we believe we're one of the most forward and progressive countries in civil rights.
I liken people that I saw in the Louisville protests, because that's where I live. Those people, I liken them to the millionaire kid that the parents give him a Lamborghini and he's like, but I wanted a red one.
Yeah.
As opposed to what we're seeing when people are willing to do that. I went down to the Louisville riots where the Breonna Taylor thing happened. It was a bunch of 16 to 20-year-old people stealing, partying, drinking, and smoking weed. That's what I saw. I took my camera down there and I have footage. Dude, like, there was evidence that Breonna Taylor, like, she was in some shady stuff.
Yeah.
Who was the other guy?
George Floyd?
George Floyd. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So we take two criminals, and this is what Americans protest over. When two criminals get a level of justice. Now, Breonna Taylor, something horrible happened with her, but she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then you compare that to the Afghanistan stuff.
We will right now. We will. Since you said that, let's take a look at Sharia law. So Sharia law, Saudi Arabia operates an uncodified criminal code based on Sharia law. Their criminal code is based on Sharia law. Under this framework, sex outside of marriage is illegal. As same-sex marriage is not permitted, same-sex intimacy is also criminalized. So gay sex isn't permitted, and gay sex is also criminalized. The punishment varies depending on the circumstances. If you're married and you have interfaith sex, you're punished with the death penalty. So if you're married and you go out and you sleep with another man, say you're a man, you're married to a woman, you sleep with another man, death penalty is punishable by Sharia law. While non-married men are punished with flogging. Sharia law principles underpinning the criminal law in Saudi Arabia are also impose strict dress codes that impact on the gender expression of transgender people. They have strict dress codes on whether or not you're a biological male, biological female. In 2014, in July, it was reported that a gay man who allegedly tried to arrange a date via Twitter was sentenced to 450 lashes and 3 years imprisonment. A gay man in Saudi Arabia, Sharia law, tried to arrange a date via Twitter, was caught and was sentenced to 450 lashes and 3 years imprisonment. This followed another report in April which found that 35 LGBT individuals had been arrested following a gay party. So, let's keep going on here.
And then you jump to America and the police try to get this dude for 20-something minutes to get in the car and just calm down. And then it pushes Derek Chauvin to that point where he should not have been pushed to.
I've said this before. In that scenario, you got two scumbags. All right, in my opinion. And people are going to say I'm awful. The fact that I think George Floyd's a scumbag has nothing to do with him being black. It has to do with the fact that he was using counterfeit money, that he was also on drugs, that he had pervasive use of drugs, a record of drugs. And the reason I think Derek Chauvin is a scumbag is he has a history of racist interactions, a history of police brutality. They're both scumbags. Neither of them deserve a memorial. That's for dang sure.
All the people that lost their mind over that I know.
Yeah.
What are they going to do about this Afghanistan thing, which is 10 times worse?
Dude, you know how the left in 2020 was so eager to pin every single death from COVID? They said, look, this administration's incompetent. The Trump administration's incompetent. Every single one of these hundreds of thousands of deaths from COVID are Trump's fault. He needs to be out of office. That's what they said over and over. Okay, well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. All of the chaos that is about to unfold in Afghanistan. The next terror attack that comes from an Al-Qaeda cell or an ISIS cell that was funded in Afghanistan because we essentially just gifted an entire country to them. The next terrorist attack that happens in Israel or the U.S., every life lost because of how catastrophic a failure this is in Afghanistan, and every life lost from someone who's exposed to COVID by an undocumented, illegal, untested immigrant that's coming through our porous border, all of these hundreds of thousands of lives have to lay at the head and feet of this current incompetent administration.
CNN, Facebook, and the left media will not publish that story, and they will not tell all of our people on the left what to think. So they'll just kind of be like, they'll just go on their day like, oh, Afghanistan happened, whatever, everything else happens. Like, they don't think about it, dude. Like, ever since Trump got out of office, I noticed all these people don't care anymore.
They don't
care anymore.
So here's the other thing. All right, so we had 2,500 troops in there. I just now find out that Biden has sent 5,000 troops back to help extradite the people, to get the rest of the people out.
Yeah.
He pulled all of our military and left anywhere from 11,000 to 40,000 American citizens still in Afghanistan. They don't know the exact number, but they say the lowest is 11,000, the highest could be 40,000. Yeah. He left them there with our troops gone, with no legitimate way to get, like, they're just said, good luck. There's a website now to go to that you can go to this website and it'll help you get to the airport. On top of that, this is the word, like, it just compounds on itself. It's worse and worse as you talk about it. On top of that, they're not even prioritizing American citizens for getting transport out. They're not prioritizing these American citizens. They're saying first come, first serve. We don't care. They're like, we need to get as many of these Afghan people in the city with these special visas, or in the U.S. with these special visas as soon as possible. That's their priority. Dude, I'm sorry, but if you're saying, hey, we can't fit, we weren't there for nation building, we can't fix what's going on, we're out, your priority shouldn't be getting as many of them first. Your priority should be on your own people first, on your American citizens first, and then getting as many of those people who need it. This seems like another ploy to get as many undocumented potential votes as you can in 2 or 3 years.
I just, like, my mission statement, because I know in this podcast I brought up, like, the left over and over again. It's like, once again, that you've got this group that is religiously trying to be moralistic. They don't care. They like to think that they care, and they only think that they care when the media pushes a certain narrative. Dude,
it is.
What was the whole Donald Trumpism? All of that stuff was like, dude, our country is not taking priority, and all these people wanted it to take priority. They had an actual cause.
You saw the CNN reporter, again, we'll show this clip. We'll show this clip right now. CNN reporter. This is shortly after, in the same report where they're chanting "Death to America" behind her. They blatantly tell her to move away because she's a woman.
Yeah, actual sexism.
That's actual legitimate sexism. Right there. They have no problem telling her, look, back up, you're a woman. You think we have sexism here in the States? You know, like, you think, oh, well, we're concerned with the fact that the majority of Fortune 500 companies are run by men. This is literal, actual sexism, limitation of human rights based on your gender. I wonder if we'd have as many. I bet this. I'll tell you this right now. I bet Taliban governed Afghanistan. I bet they don't have as many transgender males to female as the U.S. does. Mark my words. You ain't going to see a whole bunch of dudes eager to turn female in a Taliban-governed Afghanistan.
I'm telling you, man, it's not good for Joe Biden and the overall left. So all of the people that lean that way, they're just not going to talk about it. We're going to move on.
Here's the problem I have with it. I recognized the potential catastrophic nature of this regime. I recognized the potential dumbfoundingly obvious we shouldn't vote this guy in. I recognized it. But when he got elected, the moment he got elected, I rooted for his success. I root for his success. Yeah. I root for Kamala Harris' success. I root for their success. Why? Because they govern our country. They're in charge of our country. I have to root for their success because when they succeed, our country succeeds. That's not what's happening. I'm not sitting here hoping, I can't wait to see the failure. No, that's not me.
Can I tell you an interesting story?
Sure.
I had a friend, a really good friend, really great friend, smart friend, amazing dude. that has helped me in so many ways, and he despises Donald Trump. And I said,
I have several friends like that.
I
yeah.
said, what would it take? What do we need to fix? What do we need to fix what happened? And he said, all right, here's what needs to happen. Somebody outside of the political realm. He needs to come in and he needs to just clean house, clean it all, drain it all, and get rid of all those corrupt people. And then it's going to happen. I look at him and I go, what do you think Donald Trump was? And he was like, it's because
Dude,
the media threw a narrative.
Yes.
And the news is on all the time.
Here's the thing.
People on the left do not think for themselves.
Donald Trump, though, I will say, I don't agree with the idea that he's all about creating positive change. The dude is about making money.
Yeah.
The guy wants to make money. In his mind, the success of America revolves around our economy. If the American economy is flourishing, then everything's flourishing. I think he wore the coat of conservatism because that's what he needed to do. You don't look at them as these big moral figures. And we'll do a video. We'll do a video on how you never look for politicians as your pillars and pariahs for virtue. You don't do that. It's just foolish. But that's what happened. In this current administration, they thought that this new administration was the most virtuous administration. It's like, we're going to build back better, et cetera, et cetera.
I saw people that I know, people like that, and it was like they were making love to Facebook with their posts on Inauguration Day. Dude, I wanted to throw up because I was like, when Trump got elected, I was about to make my movie. I was like, oh, cool, maybe some change. These people were like, we get Jill Biden. It was, and it's like, and I'm just like, but none of them are posting about Afghanistan.
Here's what you get. They pulled out Afghanistan and said, good luck.
Nobody cares. No one's saying anything.
This is what I equate it to. A couple things. One, if those people chanting death to America behind that reporter doesn't stir your convictions, I would check your patriotism. Two, if the images of those people falling from that plane to their death, trying to leave that country, don't check your convictions. Don't check your heart and your convictions. It doesn't grip you here. I would check your humanitarianism.
That's the thing. They don't care.
I would check your humanitarianism. However, this is what I equate it to. Nobody likes Holocaust comparisons. They don't. But this is what I'm equated to. Let's say World War II drug on for 20 years. Say it drug on for 20 years. And finally, the Allied forces just said, hey, you know what, Nazis? We're done. We're out. This is costing us too much. We've beaten you back a lot. We've brought the hammer down. But now we're going to leave. We're going to leave all of our stuff, all of our expensive tanks and everything. We're just going to leave it here, but we got to go. Be good Nazis and don't spread anymore. It'd be like us just doing that, pulling out, and then watching Nazi Germany take back over Germany and Poland, just like that in a few days, and then just leaving it at that.
That doesn't affect the American that lives at home with mom and dad or doesn't take responsibility for anything, so they don't care, because ultimately they are the most selfish. It is the most selfish party possible. Mm-hmm. You don't want a kid, you don't want to have a responsibility of a kid, fine. Kill it. That's fine. The party of morals and virtues. China says it's ready to deepen friendly and cooperative relations with Afghanistan. Beijing has sought to maintain unofficial ties with the Taliban. If you have a country or a leadership regime that there is footage of them saying death to America, they obviously don't like us. It's just frank. And you're China, and you blatantly and openly say, hey, we're going to begin friendly relations with this country. Yep. One thing has to be certain. That means that China is not threatened by us in the slightest. Is not threatened by this current regime in the slightest. The only way you could look at one of our obvious enemies and say, hey, let's be friends. Let's start relations. Let's start connecting. Would be if you didn't care how we respond. If you know for a fact that we're not going to do anything to you. So I've never been this China Biden or China Joe or whatever. I've never been that kind of guy. I've been like, hey, whatever on that front. This is pretty direct and obvious evidence that China is not the least bit threatened or impressed by Joe Biden. They don't have nothing. They know they have nothing to fear from him. Mm-hmm. And
It is what it is. Like in my opinion, if you cannot defend this action anymore. You can't defend it. You can't defend it on morality. You can't defend it on humanitarianism. You certainly can't defend it on policy.
And I just know for a fact all of those people that were so just over the top erotic on election day for Joe Biden, they're just not paying attention, dude. They're at the bar, they're smoking weed, they're getting drunk at the bar, they're doing whatever else because
just don't care.
Because that is the majority of the liberal party. Yeah. No responsibility, no anything. Selfishness.
Man. Well, if you'd like to challenge us on that, if you look at all this footage and you look at what's happening in Afghanistan and you think differently, please feel free to write in the comments. Let us know what you think. In my opinion, it is a complete and utter failure. That being said, it's not. It doesn't make. If you're a believer in this time, it doesn't make. It doesn't change anything about your salvation. It doesn't change anything about your situation. I would say though, I've seen pray for Afghanistan. Although I affirm that, I feel like Afghanistan needs more than our prayers right now. So try to cultivate change however you can. If you have a platform, raise awareness. You know what I'm saying? Talk about, hey, this needed to be handled better. We need to be thinking about these Afghan people. We need to be thinking about handling it appropriately. If you are in a position and you know this was a big mistake, run for office. Run for local offices. Try to make change. Make change how you can. Even if it's a broken system, use it as best you can to make some of this change because they need our prayers, yes, but there's so much more we can do, and they need more. So, I mean, I can leave it at that. Just say, pray for them, but then any chance you get, make your voice heard, raise your voice. There are people that you're about to see some serious suffering in Afghanistan. And if you call yourself a humanitarian, if that's what you really believe, then get ready. Your chance to prove it is coming. It's already here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and keep being awesome because that's how I made you.